Welcome to the Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Super Mario. Let me get this straight. A plumber crawled through sewer pipes to kill a turtle with a flamethrower to rescue a princess? I bet she was very happy about all of that. Now, let's dim the lights and start the show.
Welcome everyone to the Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by Strawberry Smiggles, the breakfast cereal to die for. Nobody can have them if you eat them first. Start and end your day with Strawberry Smiggles. Welcome everyone to the Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And we are filmmakers. We like to make things and review films as a method of improving our own process of how we make things, especially on the writing end. I always really enjoy, figuring out different techniques and methodology. Sometimes it's about structure, and some writers and filmmakers are really big on like structuring their films, and others are just kind of not thinking about that at all. They're just thinking about what is the story, how does the story unfold, and that's it. And I feel like Alex Garland, whenever I've read up on some of his methodology, seems like that's more of his bag. He's not thinking about structure. He's thinking about like, here's my start and end point. Here's things that I think need to happen. And he just kind of, I think I hear some writers talk about points on a map. And I think I've heard Brandon Sanderson talk about this, where he's like, some writers just like have points on a map. They're like, I know I'm eventually going to get there. I don't know how. I don't know my route, right? I know I'm starting in this town and I'm going to that town. There's like a dozen roads I can take to get there. I'll figure it out. And they just kind of carve a path along the way. And so I'm always interested to see how different writers operate, I think. And that's some of my own takeaways. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, so to speak. This is going to be I don't know what this is going to be completely honest. But with, I don't know, that in mind, what are we talking about today?
Today we are covering Warfare, which did come out last year. Was it 2025? Yeah. Alex Garland wrote this with Ray Mendoza. We're covering that film. So if you haven't seen this film, please pause the episode and go watch it, because we're going to spoil a bunch of things. But I think we're going to have a good conversation about a lot of things, including writing, including editing and stuff like that. And I know you've got some other things you want to bring up for sure. So yeah, we don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, we'll do our best to talk about this. And I want to talk about at least some of the sound design, talk about perspective, realism versus heightened sound effects, talk about some of the story and writing, the screenplay notes, that I have on flow and authenticity. There's a couple passages I want to read. So we'll cover some of that and other such stuff and things and stuff.
And a quick synopsis of the film. A platoon of Navy SEALs embark on a dangerous mission in Ramadi, Iraq, with the chaos and brotherhood of war retold through their memories of the event. It's written and directed by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland. Cinematography by David J. Thompson, featuring Will Poulter as Erik, DeFaro Woon-A-Tai as Ray, Joseph Quinn as Sam, Cosmo Jarvis as Elliott, and Charles Melton as Jake.
Nice. And no clip. Yeah. Feel like that wouldn't be all that productive.
Silence and yelling.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. That is probably even a better synopsis of this movie. Silence and yelling.
Quick synopsis of the film. Yeah. Silence and yelling. Written and directed by...
Dude, this is a movie, man. If you maybe, or it's a documentary. It's kind of hard to label it. Like,
it's a great way to start it. This is a movie, man.
This is a fucking movie. It's one that I knew I had to watch. If for no other reason, it's Alex Garland, and I just watch everything he does. He's my favorite writer, and also part of me was just like absolutely mortified to walk in, just based on the preview. I think I saw maybe a 30-second trailer, and it was arresting. Maybe is exactly how I felt. And so I don't think you were able to catch this in theater, but you saw it at home, maybe even with your headphones on. And so, yeah. What was that experience like for you? Talk me through it.
Yeah, I mean, so I when I go in to watch movies like this, I always like I have to like prepare myself, right? I can't, I mean, we watch films and we pick them apart maybe, or we like try to like analyze things and stuff. But when I watch war movies or movies that are, like Black Hawk Down or whatever, that are trying to really depict, what it's like, then I really want to, I don't want to, but I like really feel like I owe it, the film, and people who have gone through stuff like this, the time of like trying to put myself there, because there's no other reason to make a movie like this other than to remind people what it's really like. You see right now we're a war, we're in wars all over the place, I guess, but like one main one. And it's really easy to say, yeah, let's go do this, or let's, or no, we shouldn't, or whatever. But you got to remember, like, there are actual real bodies and real human beings and lives that are actually doing this shit. And where there are literal bullets whizzing by their heads all the time. And terrible things happen. And it's, so anyway, I tried to like really prepare myself for what I was going to see. And I tried to do that for a lot of movies. I mean, there's other movies that I really think do this viscerally. I'm not going to say well, because I've never been in war. I'm going to say like viscerally, like I feel it. And this one, I think probably more than most. And I felt it. And I think one of the reasons is because of what I just said earlier, which was silence and yelling. There's a lot of them at the beginning just sitting around in silence, and I imagine that's probably how it was. I mean, they were hiding essentially, like, covert. They were, operating covertly, trying to get intel. And, of course, so they had to be quiet. And so a lot of it is them sitting around. And because this is memories, I believe it. Like, this is not like I'm going to tell a story. This is, I'm going to tell their story from what they remember. And so watching that, I'm fine with sitting there with them in silence, because then I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm like really with them, they're taking notes, and they're, whispering in their headsets and stuff, like calling things out that they're seeing and everything. And then when all the shit starts going down, it's even that much more impactful. So, I mean, I've seen it twice, and I want to say the second time it was easier to watch, but it really wasn't. I think they do a good job of a few things. If I just call out, like, from a movie perspective, first thing is, like, we see enough gore, I guess, or just enough of that for it to really feel like brutal and real, but not so much that it's like gaudy and it numbs you to it. It's like they'll show something and then they'll cut away and they'll show you some other part of the story, and then eventually, like a few minutes later, they'll show you something else again. And when I'm talking about, like their legs when they get really, blown up or something like that, and you'll see bits of it, like shots, and then they'll go away. So they just constantly remind you of this, and to have these guys who are hurt just screaming constantly in the background is like, you can't get away from it, and I had a buddy who was in the Iraq War right after 9/11. He enlisted, and he lives in Seattle now, and he just amazing guy. But the same thing that happened to Erik, where like the explosion happened, and he obviously had a concussion, like, right? He was like totally effed up. Same thing happened to my buddy. He didn't get, like, some of his friends died. He didn't die, but he got really, like, it just totally messed up his head. And so watching that happen, it was like such a reminder of, oh, you can get messed up in so many different ways, not just from, getting blown up. Like you can be blown up, but not lose a leg, right? You can just like be mentally blown up. So I think that was like really amazing to show different levels of how something like that can impact you. I thought the editing itself was like really, it was great. It was like these like really hard cuts. So you didn't know where you were going next. You'd be in there in the room with them and all of a sudden you would cut away to a drone shot. And so it's quiet and you just hear, the radio, and then you're there for a good minute, a long time. And then you cut right back into the fray or something. And it's like, whoa, oh my gosh. So I thought the editing itself was like really interesting and kept me engaged. The acting obviously was, I mean, I don't know how you act poorly in a film like this. I just feel like it's a fight or flight. It's one or the other, even as an actor in a situation like this, I feel like, but I believed everyone. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. It's hard to watch, but I think movies like this are important to be made and to watch, to remind us like these are boys. These are somebody's sons, somebody's husbands, brothers, and fathers who are over there fighting for us. And I think it's, I used to have a different view of them. I used to think, like you're trying to make money off of this or whatever, but I don't think that anymore, especially with a film like this, where they like really are using the memory of these people to make something real, and Alex Garland, I mean, like, come on, just one of the, I would trust him with any story, he's just like one of the greatest. So, what was you have a brother who's in the military. Like, what was your feeling?
Yeah. Before I dive into that, before I answer that, would you tell me the impact that opening title had on you watching this movie? Because it explicitly states, I don't have it pulled up. And they call it out in the screenplay too, like that this movie is entirely made up of the memories of the soldiers that were on this mission.
Yeah, I think that's vital. I think it's like super important. I mean, knowing that this really actually happened going into it, I think you watch it differently, than if it was, oh, this is written by Alex Garland. It's a story, whatever, it's like Civil War, right? Didn't actually happen. The movie didn't actually happen. So you're watching it like entertainment. I don't watch this movie like entertainment at all. Like I watch it like a documentary, and which is much more impactful. So yeah.
So I mean, whenever I saw this is entirely made up of their memories, it's, for me, that shifted the entire experience, because now it's like, the things you remember are the things that have left an impression on you. And so whenever someone is, making a joke, like, that's really endearing. That, for me, that there's so much more humanity seeing some of these little gags. Like the fact that we open on, I don't know what that is, what music video or what aerobic exercise thing, and these guys are all huddled around watching this laptop, getting amped up for this mission. And then we cut to them in the street. Oh man, that opening shot of the mission where we're just opening on on black, looking down the street, locked off camera, like 10, 15 feet in the air, or however high it is. And then we're just hanging out for whatever, 10 seconds. And then the guys start either side of the camera creeping up.
Slithering in.
Yeah. It's just like, whoa. I mean, that is already visceral. And it also kind of points to the patience that you need to watch this. And then, they hold for a minute, and then we cut to some of the coverage, and we watch one guy look at another guy across the way, and he starts thrusting his hips like in the video. And the other guy starts, doing the same thing, like humping his buddy in front of him who's not looking, has no idea what's going on. And then, so they kind of time out for a second, and then they get tapped, and then they're back on, like they're right there back again. And it changes the way I'm approaching this whole story, because coming in, it's disarming. Because I come in looking for the robots, looking for the machines that are trained killers. And then you see these guys and you're like, these are my buddies. I know these. I am that guy who is supposed to be serious right now. And I'm over here dry humping the guy in front of me. Like, that is me to a T. If you played sports, if you played football in high school, you heard the term grab ass. Every day at practice, stop playing grab ass. We were literally playing grab ass, And so you're watching these guys, you're like, man, these are my football buddies. And it just breaks down this wall that you have inside of you of walking into this thing looking for killing machines. You're like, no, these are just dudes. These are dudes who are trained to do something, that I haven't been trained to do, and are capable of doing things that I'm not capable of doing, for those reasons. But it's just breaking down these walls. And then you see one guy, like, hey, you want some water? Oh, yeah, I want some water. He's like, he spits his water back into the bottle, and then he hands it to him. And you're like, he's not going to drink that. And then they cut away, but then they cut back, and he stares him down while he drinks the water. And he's like, oh, but they got to be quiet. Gross. It's so gross, and it's so endearing at the same time, because you understand these guys more. And you also understand these aren't just, like, to your point, this isn't just a writer writing things that's fun. Like, these are memories of guys with their brothers, out there, I don't know if this was a war zone at the time, but it was certainly going to be one, because, in the script, they go into a lot more details. I read, the first 65 pages, 70 pages. I had to stop reading. The script is almost more brutal than the movie.
Wow, really?
I couldn't believe it. Like, I was just like, fuck me, man. I just can't keep reading this. As awful as the movie is to watch, the script is even more challenging. I was just stunned with some of the details. And I'll come back to that in a minute. But yeah, to your question earlier, is like, man, watching this it was tough in the theater, and to your point, not easier the second time around. And I thought, because I was like, I know I don't want to watch this back to back again. Normally, right when we do our episodes, I watch it the night before, then I watch it the morning of, and I was like, I know what I'm in for. I'm not doing that. So maybe I'll cheat the system. I'll cheat my own system. I'll read the script, and that way I don't have to. I'll be able to, have something else to talk about, and also be able to experience it, without having to sit through the visuals. And it's not the visuals, man. It's just it's the story. It's what's happening. There's no way to get around it. You're either in it or you're not. And so, I don't know, man. Watching this stuff, I hate it. I'm anti-war. I hate war. I'm not a pacifist by any stretch of the imagination, but I see what war is, and I'm like, there's such a thing as just war, that we just haven't met the criteria, I don't think, since World War II. Like, not even just on a practical constitutional basis. In America, we have a constitution that we flaunt all around, and then flog at home. And it's just brutal that we don't declare wars anymore, and all those kinds of things. So when I'm watching a movie, those are the kinds of things that's going through my mind, is like, and I love that we sit with the family after, this all ends. We actually sit with the family as they walk out, and they're like, we don't know what just happened. And so all those things are going through my mind, even as I'm getting shell shocked, over and over again. And you see that IED go off, and you just know something bad is going to happen, because it wasn't bad enough. Like, that first grenade gets tossed in, and you're like, crap. Okay, this isn't too bad. We can get through this. Now it's just about getting out of here. And that Bradley shows up, and you're like, oh, okay. Like, we're halfway home. And then the IED goes off, and it's, I don't know, 41, 42 minutes. And I tried to glance, and it was right around the 41, 42 minute mark. And we sit in that haze for like 6, 7, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Most movies would give you 30 seconds, and it's a tough 30 seconds that most movies give you. Like, go watch whatever, Black Hawk Down, and they'll give you some of those tough 30 seconds. I don't know if any movie has ever given us that. And I was trying to do a little homework. I don't normally like to look up and do any kind of cheating, so to speak. But I was just like, I was wrestling because I walked out of this and I was like, man, I don't think you can make an anti-war film, but if there is one, I think this is as close as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't know if that's the perspective of the filmmakers. This gets into a conversation we'll have at the end of the episode, I think, probably. But I was just like, and so I started looking for quotes from like Ray Mendoza, who plays, he has himself represented in the film because he was there, the writer and director, co-director. And he talks about like that moment in specific. I came across a bunch of his quotes about this movie, so I couldn't avoid learning more about this film. But one of his things was like, the reason we spend so much time in that haze, whatever the aftermath of the IED, it was like, that's just the way it was. If, we're sitting there for 2 minutes with a blank stare on our face, it's because we were sitting there for 2 minutes with a blank stare on our face. Like, I was just trying to go beat for beat with what actually happened according to our memories. And that's just the reality of it. That's how it felt. And that was what was happening. And I was just like, fuck. And so the more you know about this movie, the worse it gets. Like, as bad as the experience is, the more you start to learn, the more difficult it, becomes. And yeah, the sound design was just, God. That first time walking out of the movie, there was two big things I walked away with, outside of the third being of just how much I fucking hate war. But the other two was the sound design was just, if this doesn't get an Oscar for sound design, I don't know if it's nominated. It better be. But the sound design in this movie is unparalleled for my dollar.
Especially if you watch it on do you watch it on headphones?
No, I had it on
God,
in the theater.
Dude,
in the theater it was like however good it must have been in your headphones, multiply that, magnify it in the theater. So I got that experience. But just watching it this morning on my TV, I have a small sound bar and I had to like ride the volume because I'm like, I'm going to get like complaints called. It's so brutal. But yeah, tell me about your experience in the headphones.
Oh, no, it just felt like it felt like you were like inside of it, because they did a good job of, when you're in a theater, you have speakers all around you, but when you're in headphones, you only have two, right? And so the mix is super important. Is it coming from, it's not just if it's coming from right or left, but the bullet needs to sound like it's coming from in front of you and then to behind you. And they do a great job of like, even though I wasn't listening to it in Atmos, it felt like it was like the mix was really, really intense and surrounding. You know what I mean? It was just in headphones, because I was watching it. On my TV, I can watch with headphones. I can connect my headphones via Bluetooth, and man, it was like, so I'm watching on a big screen, in my house, obviously, but a big screen with my headphones. It was like really wonderful, and I can't watch a movie like that in my house with my kids, you know what I mean? Right. So,
and some of the sound design that it really hit me, of course, is how we're losing audio at times, right? And how much that reveals more violence as we're witnessing the carnage in the absence of sound. Like that, it just really heightens the visuals. It's, one of those, you lose one sense and your others are heightened. And I thought it was just a great use as far as filmmaking goes. Now that was his reality, and so there's a dual function there for, Ray Mendoza. But for an audience perspective, like the losing that audience and watching someone scream MOS is absolutely horrifying. And then bringing the audio back is like a sonic boom, also horrifying. Like there's no escaping it, and you just feel trapped, because it doesn't matter if you look away or not. Like there's just no way to escape what's happening. And I think that's just brilliant filmmaking. And then of course going like MOS, which means without sound, like you're minus optical sound, where you're just visual, right? That's the shorthand, MOS, on set. And so going, MOS to demonstrate the headspace of Ray and Erik is very emotional too, because, we're suddenly much more connected and empathizing with what we're experiencing, because you don't just get to sit back and experience and watch. This movie is forcing you to participate, and it's using those kind of elements that forces you to participate, because now you're suddenly empathizing on just this primal level with what they're experiencing, because you understand, oh crap, like his head, he's not here with us right now, and you're just watching him. And then you're watching him, and you like snap back into it, and you're like, okay, oh, now he's back. And the way you can represent that through the use of sound is just it tries to shift some of the cost of this war onto the viewer, is how I felt. It's like, man,
yeah,
thank you.
Which it should, right? Like I totally agree that, and I think we've had this discussion before, like most war movies are not, they try to be, but they're not anti-war movies, right? Yeah. This one, I don't care what they intended it to be. It is an anti-war movie in my mind. Like I can't watch this and think, oh yeah, this is glorifying war, or this is in some way not anti, right? It's just brutal. I mean, it brings you in to like these guys, and then it is brutal all the way to the end. There is no give for it, once the that IED goes off, it is just, I mean, it's scary when the grenade comes into the room, right? And it explodes, but nobody's like super hurt, like, yeah, there's a little bit of injuries, but it's not, like life threatening, and there's guns blazing and stuff. But I think we're used to that in war movies. What we're not used to is what happens after the ID goes off, and really sitting in that. And I don't think that they would, I just don't, I can't imagine them doing what you said, like showing a guy screaming in agony without sound and then bringing it back to you is like a punch. It's you imagine it in your head what that actually sounds like, but you can't hear it. And then it comes in and you're like, it is way worse than what you could imagine. And I think that in itself encapsulates what they're trying to say, that it is actually worse than what you can imagine. Like it's hard to imagine the pain of someone when you don't have it, and when you're not in that pain, and to be empathetic when you're not experiencing that. But the moment you experience it, you feel alone, like no one else can imagine what you're going through, right? And so it just felt like they were trying to bring you into that the entire rest of the movie, and they did. I mean, they did. And to your point earlier, knowing that is from people's memories, that everything that you're seeing, spitting the water back into the bottle, to, laughing at a joke, to, talking about these guys across the street and what they're wearing and stuff, like all of it is from memory, like it just means that they're trying to faithfully reenact everything. And so if they're faithfully reenacting it, even all of the brutal stuff is real. Like, man. Yeah.
Absolutely. The other thing when I was walking out that really caught me, I don't know if by surprise is the right word, but really impressed me was the chatter. Like the technical verbiage on comms was so precise and so authentic that I feel like no other film has really captured it this way. Maybe the closest has been something like Generation Kill on HBO, where it's just so precise in the way that they're talking. Interruptions happen and like, hey, can you repeat from here on? Like, okay, yeah, Daewoo, blah, blah, blah. And so I was just really impressed with like that level of persistence in getting the details right on comms. It also rendered me a little bit more, beholden to the story, because it no longer felt like we're going to smooth over some of these details in order to get to the real heart of it. Because the real heart of it is what happens to the people. But whenever you have all these other details that are so precise, it starts to push you more into that documentary element where it's like you can't help but say this is more than just a movie. This is like how as close to real we can get, and yeah, just those little details. And there's tons of little details running through this film that is like I wouldn't have, as a writer, I wouldn't have thought to put that in there. Like that's, or at least I don't think I would have. The other thing with writing is you don't know what you would write until you start writing. Like things just start happening. But certainly going in, it wouldn't be obvious to me for guys to keep bumping that guy's leg.
Oh yeah. Oh God. I was so mad. I was so furious at that. Like I was like, dude, how dare you, But then you've got the guy who's just like, come on, man, you've got this or whatever. And you're just like, shut the f- up, man. You have no idea what's happening. And that's what I mean. Like even that guy who's there with him has no idea what he is experiencing, laying on the ground like that. He is alone in his experience. And you can, you feel it. I mean, even the guys who are caring for him can't imagine it, and he knows that. And so, yeah, just great point of that. The bump in his leg and stuff. I'm just like, oh my God. Oh.
So I read through a good chunk of the script and I wanted to call out a couple passages just because I'm always wanting to learn, especially when it's Alex Garland script, and that he co-wrote this with Ray Mendoza. Is just really cool to me because it speaks to, I don't know, Alex Garland. I assume he, more than anything, attached himself to help this film get made. Like, it's probably easier to get this thing made when you have him signed on. And so, yeah, and then maybe to advise and, to help Ray Mendoza, who's been a technical advisor on a ton of films. So if you go through his catalog, I think we'd see him going back to, I forget already, like Navy SEAL, SEAL team. He did a Navy SEAL movie a long time ago. That was just like a bunch of real guys. You and I think, watched that at Alamo, South Lamar at some point.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a couple passages. This first one is on page 38, scene 46. This is towards the beginning when they're moving down the stairwell. And so what I like about it, maybe this will help setting it up, is this is what's called vertical. Being vertical on a script is just the ability to quickly move the reader's eyes down the page. You're keeping it very vertical. You're just constantly going down, down, down. And that's that feeling of the inverse being if there's a big chunky paragraph, right? You're no longer vertical. You're having to move your eyes left to right a lot, whereas being vertical is like short, punchy sentences. That's like, you get it. And now you're getting a sense of rhythm, a sense of flow. And there's a time and a place for chunky paragraphs. I'm not anti that at all. But readers really like to get into the flow and seeing action lines, terse, contained, and pushes the visual idea into your head about what's happening as quickly as possible so that you can move and get a sense of the edit. Like now every new line is kind of a new edit. And so I just wanted to read their version of keeping things vertical is really strong and it paints a strong picture. And so This is what it says. The SEALs move off the stairs into the hall. Sadar is in with the Iraqi family. The family look frozen in total confusion and horror as the SEALs pass. The daughters are crying, panicking. The mother looks like she's screaming. We can't hear her. The family have dropped into a transcendent state of fear and confusion. The invasion, the grenades, and the gunfire. The destruction of their home. The deafening sound of the claymores. The blood splashing on the hall floor as Elliott passes them. And that's like, all together, that's probably like 4 or 5 seconds of the film. But man, can you see and understand exactly what's happening. As much as, you know, you're feeling watching that family in the real time in the film, you understand it in the script form. They're not just glossing over the family in the screenplay because they're not the quote unquote heroes. They're not the people who are there to cheer on or whatever your motivation is when you sit down to watch this movie. And you feel it. It's right there in the script. The family, the Iraqi family, is real people in the script. And it's hard to not feel that in the movie too. And I like that we're often checking in with them throughout the movie. They're not just background. They're not obstacles that as little as maybe we actually spend with them in real time. You never really forget them either. Like, we're constantly kind of reminded that they exist. They're there in this universe. This is their home, especially after everything ends. And everyone leaves and the family kind of walks out and their home is just utterly destroyed. I love that we have that moment with the family. Because it's really easy as Americans sitting in our houses talking about support our troops. Maybe I'll come back to that idea in a second. But the other passage that I wanted to call out, and this is not vertical, this is where it gets chunky. It could have been vertical, and that was what caught my attention reading this, was like how little of this you see in the film, but how explicit it is in the script, and how I would have written this different, which talks to the authenticity. And that's the point of this little passage. For me, as a reader, I was just like, I understand the person writing this knows exactly what they're talking about in a way that I, as a writer, would not have been able to communicate. Because this is the moment between the scouts. This is right before the scouts move out. The scouts are the Iraqi, what do you call them? The translators that are there in the film. Mm-hmm. They move out and they're the ones that get the IED, right? Full impact. Mm-hmm. And so this is right before they go out and they're terrified. And so if this was me writing it, I would have written something along the lines of, the scouts look to, who is it? Sam, you know, they're terrified. They're overwhelmed, or they don't know how to speak. I would have written in just one quick line. We see in their eyes that they can't, they don't understand. There's a vacant stare, something along those lines, to let you know that they're present, but mentally they're freaking ejected. They don't know what to do. This is beyond their capabilities. And I would have made it really nice, tidy little 6 to 10 words in and out. This is what Ray Mendoza, I have to imagine, wrote it, and maybe Alex Garland rewrote it, is how I imagine this went. He notices how scared the scouts are. The fear is partly in their posture, the way they are hunched forwards as if expecting something about to surprise them from behind, the way they are tightly gripping their AK-47s. It's also in their behavior. They talk rapidly in Arabic to each other, but when Sam talks to them, it is as if they are looking through him, not quite hearing or understanding, overwhelmed by the inputs and the confusion. And you hear that broken out, right? The fear is partly in their posture, the way they are hunched forwards, as if expecting something about to surprise them from behind, the way they're gripping their AK-47s. Like, that's being described by someone who saw that firsthand, who knows exactly, even if it wasn't specific from this mission, he's probably seen it in a dozen others, right? He's like, I know the fear that I'm seeing on these guys' face, and I'm going to make sure the reader completely understands how shook these guys are. And I'm going to describe it in a way that no one else that hasn't been there could ever describe it. Here you go. And so reading this first time now this wasn't read by a reader. This was read by a producer who was already thinking about making it. So they didn't really have to go through, I assume this, and that's an assumption on my part, but I assume this didn't go through the normal channels that I would go through right now. But even a producer reading this is like, fuck, let me take a moment. Because they understand this guy is painting a picture of an experience. And it's something that I could never write in a million years because of the details that are going on in there. Speaks to the authenticity. Yeah. But yeah, this script is worth reading as far as you can, just for that experience of like, how do you communicate something? Because we've all got this story. It's not a war story, but it's your story, and finding ways to communicate the authenticity of your experience will help not only readers understand your experience and your perspective of the world through your story, it'll probably help it get greenlit, or at least taken seriously, because they will understand you're speaking from a point of view that only you can bring. And every story that you're writing should be laced with some of those elements. That it says, this is Todd, and only Todd could have told me this in this way, because he knows what he's talking about in a way that I haven't experienced in my life. And so reading this kind of script, I think really helps to delineate between good writing and authentic writing. Same thing with Past Lives. You know, whenever I read that, I was like, oh, I can point to a dozen ways this is authentic, you know?
Yeah, and that's, I'm so glad you're bringing this up. I mean, that is, I talk about this kind of stuff with my wife all the time, that like in relation to like AI, that I just, yes, there is going to be a day where it is indistinguishable between what we can do and what it can do. But parents out there, if you were to get advice from a person who's been through it or a computer, what would you rather have? Even if the computer is right, you would probably rather have the experience of somebody who has been up all night trying to take care of their kid, and they're crying, and they have colic, and you're not sure what to do, and then they're puking and they're pooping and all this stuff. And a computer can tell you all the right things, but what you want to hear is from somebody who has been through it. And because you want to feel like you're not alone. And a computer, even though it's giving you the right information, does not make you feel like you're not alone. It makes you, it gives you nothing, in terms of that experience level. And so when you're reading something like what you just read, I instantly feel like I am going on this journey with another person. Like this person is taking me with them, right? It's just like this experience that they have that I want, even though it's hard, that I want to go along with. I want to be a part of that they had. And that is what makes the difference between something that feels real and what doesn't. It's not that it's easy to do. In fact, I think that it's very hard to do. Even if you have experience that nobody else has had and you have your own perspective on something, it's still an art to be able to put it into a form that like makes other people want to go with you. You still have to be good at it, right? I think you're an excellent writer. I think you have a way of like putting things into perspective that like makes me want to go along with you. But that doesn't come easy. Like you write all the freaking time. You are constantly coming up with ideas and putting them into forms that like are challenging for you. And I think that's also part of it as well. Like the experience of learning how to write for that is also a part of it as well. And what you just read is a great example of somebody trying to bring you along with them, So and I feel like every week I bring up AI, and I don't mean to, but I'm so passionate about like the idea of like, I love AI. I think that it's going to change the world. It already has. And it is super amazing for doing the sort of shit we shouldn't be spending 4 hours doing. We could spend 4 minutes doing. But when it comes to emotion and getting that across, or like communicating an experience, you can't just throw it into Claude, right? You need to to like get, it's also a therapeutic thing, right? I imagine somebody that, you know, the writing of this was probably pretty therapeutic for the guys who were either telling the stories or who were, you know, the writing of this screenplay. So there's that aspect too. And I think it comes across, you know, you want to see the therapeutic nature of it. You want to see someone trying to heal from trauma like this, right? So anyway.
Yeah. The other thing I liked overall about this movie, and this is individual. I'm not going to say this is intended or whatever. This is just my takeaway. There's a quote that I really love from, I forget his name's like Sam Rezin, Reza, forget, where he just talks about, there's this whole argument going on about Islam and Muslims being whatever, prone to violence because of their religion, promoting violence or something like that. And he's just like, no, like there's only what you bring to it. No religion promotes peace or violence. It only brings out whatever it is you're bringing to it. There's plenty of Christians in modern times and today. Like there's Christian nations that promote, you know, mutilation, like female genital mutilation. Is like those are Christian countries. You're going to tell me Christianity is promoting that? No. Etc. And so I think that same thing applies to movies to a large degree, like especially something like this where you walk in probably more or less about the same as you walk out. Now, maybe something like this will help edge you towards, you know, sanity from my perspective. But for me, walking in anti-war, I certainly don't walk out less anti-war. And one of the things I really appreciate about this film is that I think is different from other war films is there's no moral victory in this film. There's no, like, at least we did this. In fact, I don't think we ever even know the mission that they're on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
What is it they're even trying to accomplish, which I would certainly argue as a case in point for the entire war in Iraq. But at minimum on this one, like we have no idea why we're there and what we accomplished by being there. I mean, at some point they clearly abort the whole thing. And you get to the end of the movie and it's like, what did we learn from this? There is no point where we ever have a satisfying, like, okay, you know, this is, in fact, at some points you're just like, we're setting up to go grab a hammer out of the street. Like we're risking life and limb to make sure we don't leave behind a hammer. Like
our stuff is in the street. Okay, we're going to risk our life to go grab the hammer. Like who cares? Like what? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some, I assume it would have to be a funny reason in terms of like, that hammer cost us, you know, 6 weeks of whatever rec forms and requisition forms and whatever. I don't know what goes into getting some of that gear overseas. I assume it's something related to that. But I see that and I'm just like, my God, like we're risking it. To me, it's a case in point of we're risking our lives for something stupid. And it's represented, to me, it's reflected in the fucking hammer in the street. This whole mission is that hammer in the street. Like, what is this? And so watching this, you know, I'm like, this is great. Awesome. War is cool. How cool is this? This guy just got his leg blown off. It's never coming back. He gets to spend the rest of his life in a fucking wheelchair. Awesome. Isn't this is what we signed up for, baby? Yeah. Who else can we kill? Who else can we maim? This is what we're doing here. Yeah, sweet. Let's destroy these people's house. Why not? These little girls, they'll never be the same. Sweet. Who else can we queue up? Fuck it. Let's go all the way. Where's the nukes? Why aren't we dropping more nukes?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I start to just lose my mind watching how casual people are about all this stuff. And I'm so grateful that they make a film like this, because if this can at least rattle your cage a little bit about like should we be doing this? I don't know how, like I wrote an anti-war film and same thing. I don't know that you can make one, but you do your best to show how disgusting it is. And I don't know what will get people to understand that there is no glory. There's nothing to be gained for these fruitless wars. I don't know. Study just war theory and like check these boxes. If you can't check all these boxes, maybe this isn't a good war. I don't know. But
and to your point, man, they never tell us what their mission is or why they're there. And I think that that's important. I think it's part of it. I think that's what makes this maybe like one of the best anti-war movies ever, is because we don't know why. Like most of the time it's a movie where like they have a goal. We know what the goal is. They go in to try to, achieve the goal, and then things go wrong. Some people die. And it's, even if it's brutal, it's we had this goal and we accomplished, or we didn't accomplish it, or whatever. We don't even know why. There is no, so in the end, yay, we saved the hammer in the street. Like there is no reason why, or way to decipher if it was worth it, or if there was any kind of success from it. And in fact, I love, probably one of my favorite shots of the whole movie, except for the shot at the beginning, is the very same shot at the end. After the tanks leave and it's silent, it's the same. It's like, I don't know if it's the same placing of the camera. I don't know, but it feels very similar. It's not the same placing, but it feels like the same placing as the night shot of them coming in.
Wow.
But instead, it's all the people who were shooting at them, all the Iranians coming
Iraqis,
out.
Yeah.
Iraqis coming out into the street. Right. So instead of us going in, it's like them coming out.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, but it's silent. It's like quiet. And they're just, and then it's just a reminder of like, okay, why? There's just as many of them as it seemed like at the beginning. We didn't take any of them out. What were we doing? Were we just like watching people? We really needed to send in teams of Navy SEALs to watch people. We couldn't do that from the drones in the sky. Like, you have all of these questions that have no answers.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
It's like, the point of this movie is to give you questions without answers. And that's why I feel like it's a good anti-war movie, because of that. Like, because you could maybe make a case for answers in other films that are similar. But in this case, there is none. So
Yeah. So I think that's final thoughts.
So what did you think of, what did you think of like the way that, like Will Poulter played being messed up? Because it's really, it's one thing to say, it's one thing to like be injured. It's another thing to communicate injury without visibly being injured, right? And I think they have they do a good job, like, I guess edit wise or filming wise, of like making it known that like he's I think the other team, when the other team gets there, they have the leader of that other team saying, hey, what's going on? And then at one point, some guy says, have you been checked out? Let me check you out, but he does such a good job, I feel like, of communicating that he's hurt in a way that gets worse. He's shaken, obviously, but then as I think the next 20 minutes go on, he just gets worse and worse and can't decide anything, and like goes down this rabbit hole. And then finally he asks the other guy, he's like, you got to take point, man. I'm messed up. What did you think of like the way that he played that and how that came across for you?
It caught me so by surprise, and I just love Will Poulter, man. That guy is such a star. I was incredibly impressed with Will Poulter and Charles Melton. I mean, this whole cast just on fire. Charles Melton was amazing. He's the guy. He's Jake. He's the one that goes and takes a point. after Erik is like, I need you to, take over.
Yeah.
And that both of them are amazing because the way Charles Melton plays that, like he watches them after Erik makes that comment. And I just love the reaction on Melton's face because you don't know, is he judging him? Because it looks like a look of judgment. The way I'm reading it, that first look when he's just like, I can't do it. You gotta
You're right.
And I'm just
that's
like,
what I got too. Yeah.
and I'm like, whoa, holy crap. And I totally loved it. Like that was such an impressive moment because I was like, man, it takes so much guts to put that on screen, because we all like to think, and when everything hits the fan, we'll be the person to rise to action. And we'll be the hero. And so many movies are about people defying their basic, like, fundamental things that happen in our brains, that you don't get to decide. You don't get to decide if you're in shock or not. That's not a decision. That's a reaction, And so many movies depict the hero as being the one guy, who's not affected by the chaos and carnage around him. And that's just not how it always goes. I was in a car wreck a while back. I don't know, maybe like 10, 15 years ago. I had two buddies who had a buddy that played for the Miami Heat, and he was coming into town playing the Spurs. And so we're in Austin, and they were like, my buddies knew, I'm a huge Spurs fan. They're like, hey, our buddy's going to give us tickets to see the Spurs. We're going to sit and, in his seats. And I'm like, awesome. As long as he knows I'm not rooting for him, like I'll be happy to go, and meet him afterwards or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we had a good laugh. And so we drive down that afternoon. The game takes place, and another guy was there, the financial manager that manages the Miami Heat's guy. And so he gets a ticket too, and he goes down in his truck, and it's raining. We know it's going to freeze, but we risk it anyway. And on the way back, it's now 11, 12 o'clock at night. And it's been raining. And now some of the roads, there's ice patches. And I'm a passenger, and I have a buddy driving. And we eventually hit a patch of ice, and it's a crowded road. It's not like there's nobody there, like, because everyone's driving, 50, 60 miles an hour. There's still a fair amount of traffic. We hit this ice patch. We start spinning, and we're in the far left lane. We're spinning across the entire road. And I look to my right, and there's a semi coming, aiming right at us. And I'm just in my head, I'm like, I just hope we get to the ditch. Like, there is nothing for me to do. I'm not driving. And so I gave up any, idea of being in control of this. So it's like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I'm pretty good at letting go in those moments of knowing whether or not if there's something I can do, then there's tension, then there's like, okay, then there's worry. But if I know if I'm in a plane it's going to crash, like, okay, like,
isn't it amazing how fast your brain can do all of that?
All of that immediately.
Yeah.
And so we get to the ditch and we flip over once onto our side. It wasn't like tumbling end over end or anything. But we flip onto the driver's side, and I check on everybody. Boom. The driver is in shock. Now, this is a guy, if you had met him 20 minutes earlier, you'd be like, this dude is going to be a hero. He's going to be the guy who he's a former linebacker, played for UT, like big, strong, sure guy who's a man of action. We hit the car, we flip into a ditch, barely escape, with our lives intact. No one's hurt. I check on everybody, and I roll the window down, and I like jump out the top of the car now, right through the passenger window. And we eventually are able to get everyone out. And my buddy is in shock for the next 40, 45 minutes. We have another guy who calls him, and this is the financial manager guy. He calls and he's like, hey, you seeing this jackass who just spun off the road? And my buddy was like, yeah, hey, yeah, that's us. He's like, what? He's like, what? really? Like, yeah, that's us. We need you to pick us up.
Can you come back? Would you mind swinging back and picking us up?
Well, he was behind us by like half a mile or so because our accident jammed up traffic for a bit. And so he's like, I think some jackass spun off the road. And he's like, yeah, that's us. Pick us up. And so he comes, luckily 2 minutes later, we're, in a car heading back to Austin. And it takes my buddy, whatever, 30, 40 minutes before he's back to being normal. And it's one of those things you don't get to decide. Now he was driving. So what's going on in his head, wildly different from what's going on in mine. It's not because I'm some, man of action. It's just because I wasn't behind the wheel. You put me behind the wheel, I'm probably fucked for the next day because I'm like, I almost got my friends killed. Or that's how you feel. It's not the reality. And so this guy, I don't know what's going on in Erik's head, but I assume he's probably feeling some level of responsibility for all the carnage he's witnessing. He was behind the wheel, and now he's trying to reconcile what's happening in his life with his part in it. I don't know, but watching Will Poulter portray that and watching someone brave enough to put this on screen, because this isn't a normal action movie. Every other normal action movie gets to show you what, the rare circumstances of the man in action. And by every action movie depicting the rare, it suddenly becomes to look like the normal.
Yeah.
We need a movie that shows us what is actually normal. And that's the adoration that I had walking out. It's like, man, good on Erik for putting that vulnerable state of mind. An amazing job by Will Poulter, because walking into this movie, he was kind of the only person I knew. And to see him suddenly become the back seat was just like, whoa, that was a shock. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so many things about the writing of this and are just make it that much better. I think you hit the nail on the head here. So you have Will Poulter, who's a familiar face to bring people in, but then you make him the back seat because it's not about him, right? But that has to work on so many levels. He has to be cool with that, right? Like he's a big A-list actor, right? He has to be able to say, for the betterment of this story, it's best if I sink into the background of everything happening. Yes, I'm there. But it doesn't matter if I am or not, because it's not about me. And that just speaks to his artistic decision making too. It's not just his decision, but the decision for him to do it, knowing that this is going to happen. He's going to take a back seat in this. And I think it's super important because it's not about one person. It's about all of them, right? How did you feel when the other SEAL team got there? I felt like such relief. Yeah. I know they weren't out yet, but I felt like, oh my God, thank God. There's somebody else there that's not blown up that can maybe help. I don't know. Because they were done. There's no way that, oh God, what's Will Poulter's guy's
Erik.
name? That Erik. There's no way that Erik could have gotten them out. They even ask, what do we do? And he goes, I don't know. And it wasn't, but you're right. It wasn't from a place of, I'm not prepared. It was from a place of, I literally don't have the brain power right now to make any decision at all because I'm so messed up, which is crazy because you feel like at the beginning, you're like, okay, he's the leader. He knows what he's doing. He makes real strong decisions. And so when he says, I don't know, you're just like, oh my God, they are doomed. Yeah. And then this other team gets there and I just felt like, I don't know. I just felt relief. What did you feel? Did you feel that way? Or were you like, oh, more people to get blown up?
Yeah. God. Yeah. A little bit of that, but mostly relief until that one guy starts acting like a complete jackass. Downstairs. Right. That wrecked me because now the relief suddenly turned to, can we trust these guys? Because this dude is out of his mind. But when Jake, starts calling plays, I'm like, so much confidence. I'm like, okay, we're going to be okay. This guy, is calling the play, and he knows exactly what he wants, how he wants it done. He is just, and he's doing a great job of still keeping Erik in the loop. And that you can feel, as little as Erik is really pulling out of those moments, you can still feel him just enough engaged that he's going to make it out. And it was just a great line to walk for Jake. And I thought Charles Melton looks like a guy I want to follow into any battle. That dude's got a square cut jaw and just a look of steel in his eyes. Like, I'm like, shit, bro. Yeah. Let's do it. And so watching Jake start to call those plays and like, yeah, here's what's going to happen. You know, I was just like, oh, snap. Okay. The relief was there mostly for the most part. Yeah. That was. Okay.
Good. So then, okay, that's another reason why it's so good, because like it's obvious they're trying to convey certain feelings and emotions at certain moments in time, right? And that was a big pivotal moment of we've been feeling trapped, and now this other team gets there. Here's another emotion to feel, a little bit of, you know, of a lift. Now it's not perfect. This guy's gonna kick the guy who's got his legs all blown up, and they're like ruffians and stuff, but they're not perfect. But it felt like throughout the entire movie there were things they were trying to pull emotion out of us, of now feel this, now feel that, now feel this. And I felt like it was just so perfect. And the fact that you felt that way too, at least at that moment, like confirms it for me.
Yeah, you know? All the way until those doors are finally sealed, because even as the doors are closing, you're just like, faster, like you just can't
close the door. Yeah, he was saying, you know, it's like you're in a Jaws movie and you're getting out of the boat and you're at the ladder. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is the worst moment. Close the fucking door. You know? Yeah, I totally agree.
So
totally agree.
Nice. Final thoughts, man.
Well done. You know, the first time I saw it, I'll just quickly. The first time I saw it, I thought, man, this is totally brutal and intense. There are other movies that I think maybe enjoyed more, but I think that's the point. You're not supposed to really enjoy this. Like, you know, like it's not an escape movie. You know, it's not a popcorn movie. You have to prepare for it. And so watching it the second time, solidified it for me, man. Like if you're looking for an anti-war movie, or if you're looking for a movie that like whether you say it's anti-war or not, it's totally up to you. But if you're looking for a movie that like depicts reality in a way that like most movies don't, in certain ways where, you know, for like we called out, we don't even know why the hell they're there. What's their mission? We don't know. And this is the one for you. I don't think I don't think it's been done any better, honestly.
Yeah. Nice. What are you going to recommend this week?
This week I'm going to go a little lighthearted because I'm going to recommend a YouTube channel called North of the Border. I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen it because I have kids and they love this. It's just this guy, a hilarious guy. I think he's in Canada, hence North of the Border, who creates like clay figurines or like clay scapes or whatever you want to call it or whatever. And he's hilarious. And, but it's super entertaining, and he just walks you through him doing it. And it's a faceless channel. So you just see his hands doing it, but he makes all these like tiny little guys and everything. It's just like crazy. And it's super entertaining to watch. And, every time there's a new episode, my kids like freak out and we watch it, and it's great. So yeah, YouTube channel North of the Border. So.
Dude, very cool. I'm going to go the opposite direction and try to make it worse. So I'm going to recommend a documentary called War Photographer. It's about a guy named James Nachtwey. Nachtwey. I never know how to pronounce his name. To be fair, it's a documentary I've actually been putting off watching. I'm going to watch it this week. And maybe if anyone wants to watch it as well, it's available on YouTube. I'll put a link in the show notes. And yeah, he's considered, to be one of the greatest war photographers ever. And he puts himself in in harm's way to bring the realities of war home, to be witnessed and, shed light, or at least let you know what's actually happening, and the realities of war. And so check it out. It will not be an easy watch. I've been putting it off for a while now. I think after Restrepo and the other one, I forget what the other one was called. I just needed a very long break from war documentaries. And so, yeah, War Photographer, check it out, and stay tuned for next week. We're going to do a listener question, a listener request called Hero. This is the 1992 Gina Davis, Dustin Hoffman Hero. Although, I don't know, maybe the Jet Li Hero would be a fun one to do at some point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. But next week, we'll be doing the one from 1992, Hero. And if you're enjoying the show, don't forget, subscribe, drop us a review, leave us a note. If there's something you want us to cover and the kind of things you find interesting and you want us to talk about more, let us know. If you want to comment on this episode, you can do that at thepestlepodcast.com/warfare.
And our quote of the day is a good one from Francois Truffaut. Every film about war ends up being pro-war, which we've been talking about, this episode. I can't, I agree. I think that this film did the best job of what I've seen of trying not to be, I think I was trying to think of like, how could it have been any more anti-war? And the only way I could think of is if everyone dies. Right? You get close to everybody and then, and you think they're going to make it out and they don't. And I know that happens. It's obvious, but that's not this story. But yeah, it's, that's a very true statement. It feels like, so.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like, I don't remember if it was him or Wim Wenders that made a comment like the only anti-war film you could make would have to be like the antithesis. It would be like kids playing in flower patches. It would all have to be peaceful images in order to really demonstrate. And then, of course, how do you... And so the paradox is, how do you make an anti-war film without showing violence? Because the inherent nature of film is not... You can't change what someone thinks about the images you put on the screen. Like if an explosion looks cool on screen, it doesn't matter if it's supposed to be horrific. The nature of the visual arts creates some aesthetic that we like around war images. And so how do you make something that is ugly and brutal? And I agree, like this is as close as I think you're going to get. I don't know that I've seen a war film that I'm like, that if I came in liking, or at least most of the conversations around war is posed as a regretful necessity. And I just think people are so full of shit when they do that. Because I think if you actually saw it as a regretful necessity, you would be much less prone to advocating for it than we see over the last, 75 years. A lot of people seem to have no problems with advocating for war, despite this posturing of saying how regretful it is. It's like, no, you would have a higher bar to cross if that were the case. And so how to get those people to watch this or anything and walk away with some understanding of, man, maybe war isn't what I thought it was. That I don't know how to do. Like, I think this is as close as it gets, but maybe there's something more. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean,
it's something to think about,
war is just
though.
A word. Yeah, war is just a word. That's why. It's like thinking of a million people. It's impossible to like put a weight on it or like really picture that, It's just, I don't know. It's just a word for most people, unless you've been in it, I imagine, right? That term probably has a lot more weight if you've been in it. I don't know, haven't, but it's a, I don't know, difficult thing. Just war theory. Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. Anyway, I guess enjoyed this. I mean, I enjoy talking to you about movies where like we're, you know, they have some kind of other weight to them than just watching and ingesting, you know. So this was really an enjoyable hour and a half for me. It really was. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. Please subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, and review us. It all helps. And share us with your friends. And if there's a film you'd like to see us talk about or pick apart, let us know. And who knows, maybe one day we will cover it. Until next time, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch some movies.